Hey guys, welcome back to Eversoul. In today's video, we have some new balance patch notes. Now, this is something I really like in this game, the fact that they are doing such consistent balancing, and honestly, the characters that they are balancing are really well thought through, in my opinion. So I'm really wrapped with this. Now, I haven't made content in a little bit. I've been really busy just with life, and then I've been spending all my spare time playing Honkai Star Rail over on the other channel, but we are going to get back into it now. I've pretty much cleared everything there is to do in that game, so we're back into content for my other two channels. It's a bit of a mix up the way we do it, but I'll give you guys my thoughts on Honglan. I know I'm a bit late on it in a future video, probably later today or tomorrow, but I want to go through these balance patch notes. They came out overnight while I was asleep, and I'm just, like I said, I'm really impressed with these notes and the characters they're balancing and the way they're actually balancing. It actually feels like they know their game and they probably play their game to understand what's going on. So on Feb 23, which is about 2 days away, we will reveal the Battlefront Area 17, so that's going to be the new chapter, and make revisions to the guild list and apply minor changes. We also want to give a heads up on Soul Balance in February 23 patch as well. As we have addressed before, we are providing consistent balance adjustments to souls that may be showing lower performance than originally intended, or are evaluated to be showing lacking performance overall. Even if they are included in this balance patch, this does not mean their balance adjustments are complete, and if the souls continue to underperform, further adjustments will come. And there is one character in here that already has had balance adjustments. I think Mika and Siha already did as well. I can't remember, but they are continually adjusting, and that's the thing I like, is that they're not just like going massive adjustments. It's like, okay, little adjustment, let's see, little adjustments, let's see. I really like this, especially when we look at something like Honglan, who is very powerful, and then you start getting some of the beasts getting support to sort of allow her to be more viable. Now, this doesn't really help people who have summoned for other things and gone different paths, but I like the way it's balancing out the factions so that no matter which faction you want to play, there is sort of a path for you to take. At the moment, I still see Human Fairy as being the top for me personally. Also, that's because that's where I focus most of my resources on. But definitely Beast and Undead, definitely getting up there. So let's get into this and have a look at it. So the first one is Mika, and this is the artifact skill. Becomes immune to crowd control effects while cute live performance is in use. But now also, I thought knockback was considered a crowd control. Apparently it's not. So apologies for that, but it's now including knockbacks, and increases the attack of all allies within range by 25% for 15 seconds. That's pretty solid, and that is a really good base. Now, the other thing I want to mention in these notes is I'm really glad with what they're doing with the artifacts here. A lot of the artifacts, it's like, okay, if I get them to Legendary Plus or I get them to Origin, I'm going to have a really good effect. But until then, it's kind of meh. Like, some of them are really good at base, and they just keep getting better. But some of them, like Iroh, which we'll look at in a sec, they just don't have the effects that make them useful until you get them maxed out. And it was kind of pointless, and they're really sort of trying to balance the progression of artifacts so that every level feels rewarding, and I do like that. So this one, really, really solid. Attack of all allies within range by 25% for 15 seconds. I love this. I think it's a fantastic change. Really good buff. And then we've got some buffs along the way, just the amount of energy recovery, which is going up by 200 on every one. And this here, the energy recovery, is what I talk about slight adjustments to things to see if it works, and then they can keep adjusting. It's only a slight adjustment. It's not crazy. Obviously, at level 2, it's a doubling of it, but then, you know, it's only a 200 at every step, which isn't crazy. So it's a slight adjustment. Then we have Siha's artifact buff. Becomes immune to crowd control effects. Basically, she's the same as Mika. But this one also becomes immune to knockback, obviously, and adds a shield effect with shield HP equal to 200% of attack for all allies within range for 15 seconds. Once again, another solid effect that they are adding to it. And then obviously we're increasing that energy as well. Very similar to Mika. So they're both getting that little buff. And then I always love this when they put their little descriptions at the bottom of it. Mika's artifact skill 1 will now have an additional effect that increases attack of all allies and also has a slight increase in the default mana recovery increase. Sia's artifact level 1 will have a shield added to it and also have a slight increase to mana, whilst Mika's buff increases attack of all allies around. Siha, who may be in position to receive this buff, as she uses an attack as the number. Dude, I struggle at reading. But basically, they're saying that she'll be in range to receive that buff. She also increases her shield recovery. So I believe the turn order, don't quote me, is that Mika's should happen a little bit faster, which will then cause Siha's buff shield to be buffed bigger, but don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's how it's going to work. I'll have to do some testing once it goes live, because they are changing some of the skill orders of characters as well to try and balance out the duration of buffs, the up times, and stuff like that. So the next one we have here is Ira Artifact skill. This is the one, like I said. So Ira, if we look at her previous buffs, recovers 2% of max HP when she attacks an enemy affected by her debuff, and then it goes up, and then we get to level 7. It's like, okay, now they just recover no mana. So it's like, all the way along here is like a bit of self-recovery, and then you get like a massive debuff. And it was like, okay, Ira, I love at level 7. I don't really care for it level 1 through 6. I really want that mana block. But now they're adding a 50% reduced, so you get a 50% mana reduction to the enemy at base. At Legendary Plus, you get 75%, and then you get 100% at level 7. This is how I like to see them balanced out and operate. Now, they have also to you know, sort of deal with that fact, they've reduced a little bit of the HP recovery to spread it out so that the final recovery happens at level 7. So now, yeah, level 4 recovery happens at 6, but you do get the mana. So I think it's a buff overall. Pretty solid. Ira's mana recovery decrease effect will now greatly increase in order of her gradually. Dude, I can't read. I'm so bad at English. Will now gradually increase in order for her artifact skill to take effect, even at low levels. The final effect will remain the same. Cool beans. Then we got Cherry or Sherry. I'm not so sure how we're supposed to say it. But basically, she used to decrease her own defense with this buff. She's getting very limited uses, so why make her cripple herself with that? And that's pretty much the change that happens there. Now, if we go to the artifact skill, let's take a look at the buffs. So, fires bullets activation rate increases permanently to 15% and stacks up to 3 times. So now we're getting an additional effect on top of that one to the stacking effect that she gets, and that is going to be all for the changes. So in general, let's take a look at what they say. As high tension skill was perceived to have high risk, the defense decrease effect has been removed, and efficiency of her passive skill has been increased. As the chance for the passive to take effect has increased, the efficiency of the hot shot skill will also increase. So basically, we'll see how this one goes. Sherry, however we say it, like I said, she's one that really I haven't seen too many people using, but definitely keen to see if some people with her test this. I don't have her built, so obviously free to play life, not going to test it, but we'll see how we go. Then Jade. Now, Jade was one that was overhyped at launch because her skills were misunderstood. I think she's got a really solid buff here to make her work. So Jade's behavior pattern will be changed. So she's dropping a normal attack in her rotation. So it's basically just means she gets to her other abilities, her sub skills more often, which is definitely a good change. Then we have the ultimate skill. Basically, this thing was way too gimmicky. Like the effect activations, like it's a game where RNG, you can just retry stages and get that RNG. So this was just like a dead skill. Before launch, everyone thought it was going to reduce the cooldowns of people's sub skills. No, it's just an absolute... It just didn't make sense. It just had no use, really, in my opinion, because you just retry stages. Outside of PvP or something like that, had absolutely zero use. But now we're getting an all allies attack increase by 25%, which is really, really solid. So we get a 12-second, just all allies get buffed. That's really, really solid. I think that's incredibly solid. So not only do you get good damage, a stun, you also get all allies attack increase. Pretty solid support overall and everything that it gives. And then this one, damage changed to 320, stun lasts for 3 seconds, and attack increase changed to 35%. So now it's like an even better stun, better attack buff. I think this is just all round, makes Jade a lot more enticing to actually go ahead and use. So I think that's pretty solid. And then we get the artifact skill, and additional effect activation rate increases change to 15%. So this is the same thing. So that has increased 3% attack. So I think basically they're putting what was tied in at base to this skill over into this in a little sort of I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say, but they're removing this RNG factor from her and just giving her a raw good stat buff, and then still keeping that nature of her with the RNG buffing and just putting it here at a limited rate. Like I said, the RNG buffing, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. So I think it's pretty solid. Jade's behavioral pattern has been shortened slightly to increase the frequency of her sub skills being used. Behavior pattern will only be applied to, and this is the other cool thing, it's only applied to your characters. Enemy characters in campaign and stuff, they're still going to have the worst skill rotation, which is really cool. Ultimate skills additional effect activation rate of all ally skills increase was deemed to be lower in efficiency, so that buff has been changed to an attack buff. Additional effect activation rate increase changed to 15%. Buff has been added to artifact skill level 1 to increase the expected damage dealt by Jade. Also increase the expected damage combined with other souls. So basically, like I said, they're just shifting it over to there and just reducing a bit because it's really not that big of an effect. Renee's artifact skill burning up effects will be revised. So we get the standard, but we are getting the stack. So each time you use normal attacks or skills, you get a buff that increases crit by 0.6%. That's going up to 0.1%. And it used to be 15 stacks, but now it's 10 stacks, but it's still a 50% buff to overall damage once you get to max stacks, which is pretty solid. So we get, what do we get? We get a 12% buff instead of a 9% buff, if my math is not wrong, which could be. It's early in the morning. If burning up buff reaches 10 stacks, additional damage equal to 80% of attack will be inflicted on the enemy on all skills used. Now that's all skills. She does, normal attacks do give her the stacks, but it's only skills that are going to deal the extra damage, not the normal attacks as well. That would be kind of broken. And then as you can see, the crit rate buffing that we get is dramatically increased. And we lose the extra one additional buff, but that's probably because we have less stacks that we need to achieve. So keep that in mind. But when we look at it, instead of getting 2.4% per stack, we get 5.4, which is a really, really solid increase. So you're getting a 54% increase, which is pretty solid once you reach that 10 stacks. A normal attack will provide one additional buff, and that's obviously gotten removed as well. But honestly, crit rate, when you look at this, and like you'll stack this up pretty quick, and you're getting like a straight 54% crit rate increase. I love crits. I really want to build a Renee now. I don't have many copies of it, even though I've been summing for the fairies, but I really want to build a Renee. I've really liked her kit from the start, but this is just really solid. Due to Renee's skill set, there was a tendency to feel corrected to use an evasion set coerced. Dude, I cannot bloody read. To alleviate this, additional damage inflicted effect will be added to artifact skill level 1 so that you are guaranteed some amount of damage even when using the evasion set. Also, the stacking conditions for burning up. One sec. Sorry, my son just walked in. I don't know where I was up to, but you guys get the gist. she's getting a solid buff. I like it. Then we go into Miriam. Now, Miriam's already seen as a pretty decent unit for single target damage. So the fact that she's getting not a crazy buff. This is just to attack order. Basically, I'm not going to go through the attack order. You can like I like analyze this, but basically we'll just read the summary of it. Miriam's behavior pattern will be changed to increase the efficiency of auto battle and the core buff a deal with Samael. I think that's how we say it. Samael. I don't know how I was supposed to say it. Dude, I suck. Will be activated more often. Basically, changing the rotation to make her buff herself and have a higher uptime. That's what's happening there. Arusha. Now, Arusha is one that had a buff on the previous update. Obviously, they thought it wasn't enough, so they're going again. So we do have the speed increasing to a 12-second duration instead of 8 seconds. And then we've got an added effect on top of this one. If Chakra Overwhelming's buff has reached 5 stacks, Infinite Chakra buff will increase attack by 20% will be added. Really good. Better for longer fights. Can't complain with a further attack buff. And the summary is, in order to make usage of her artifact buff easier, Arusha's artifact buff effect duration will be increased, and an additional effect you can gain for maintaining all artifact buffs will grant a big advantage now. So I think that's a really solid one. So I think that'll be a big difference for her in general. And the speed increase, not only on itself, the fact that you can keep the speed increase up without letting it drop off due to the duration, but also the fact that you're getting a 20% attack buff. Really, really solid in my opinion. And then we got Rebecca. So Rebecca, we obviously known main reason I remember Rebecca is basically for the heal block in early stages, but we're going to get an increased mana recovery and restores Rebecca's mana by 2,000 when the battle begins. So she gets that burst at the start of the battle. Once again, we're just getting that increase to 3,000, this increase to 4,000, and her general mana reduction changes increase. So just a slight adjustment to numbers there, but in general, not too bad. Rebecca's artifact skill has been improved so that she can better serve to countering tankers. So basically they're just doing this so that she can get her ult off faster and stop the healing faster before the idea is that she can use, her main skill before the enemy tanks use their main skills. So if you look at, before they start healing, maybe she can get it off, when an enemy clears or, Chloe or anything like that before they start getting their heals off. That's the idea I think they're going with. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it for the update. That's it for the balance changes. Like I said, I'm always good to see balance changes happening. I really like what they're doing, making everything trying to be viable without making crazy changes and just slowly adjusting, their meters, and hopefully everything gets a little bit more balanced every time they do this. But anyway, guys, that is going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.